So this is what you need to make a classic ribollita. You need that wonderful Tuscan cabbage that we got out of the garden. Remember? Look at how quilty those leaves are. It's a headless cabbage, and this is what it looks like. You saw me take it out of the garden. So you bring that in, or you can buy this now locally. In many supermarkets, they now have Tuscan cabbage, or you could get the seeds and grow it in your own garden. So you want to bring that in, and you want to clean it, and then we're ready to go. So now I'm going to take out the bread. Look at how beautiful that looks. And I'm just going to put it on some paper towels for it to drain. Gorgeous. Let's turn that off. Don't use soggy bread for that. So we have the cavolo nero, the black cabbage, and the other essential ingredient for ribollita are beans. So we're working with dried beans. You can use Great Northern beans or cannellini beans, any kind of dried white bean. We want a cup of dried beans. And what you do is you put them in water the day before and soak them to soften the cell wall of the bean. So it's going to make it a lot quicker for you to cook it the next day. Then when they are cooked, they'll look like this. So a cup of dried beans will give you about 3 cups of cooked beans. And you know they're cooked when the skins can easily slip off the bean. You don't want them too mushy. So in this pot, we have some garlic cooking down, some onions cooking down rather, in a little bit of olive oil. So a half a cup of onions in about 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and you want to get that soft. And then we want to add some carrots. So here are 4 diced carrots. And then we want, with that, some hot red pepper. This is going to give this just a little kick. Now, if you don't like that, you can just leave it out. So a little hot red pepper goes in. And also with this, I love to flavor this soup with rosemary, fresh rosemary. Don't use dried rosemary. Dried rosemary doesn't have too much of its oil left. So we're going to put a whole sprig of fresh rosemary in the pot and just give that a little bit of stir. And now a little bit of coarse black pepper, some sea salt, and we'll taste this as we go along, because that's one of the parts of being a good cook, is tasting and seasoning as you go along. So you want 2 ribs of celery cut up. So that was 2 stalks of celery in the pot. And let's give that a good stir. And we also want to have some zucchini. And there's no rhyme or reason to the kind of vegetables that you can use in this soup. You can use anything. All right, now in goes the zucchini. That goes in. Smelling wonderful. We want a potato, a couple potatoes, 1 or 2 potatoes. You can use all-purpose potatoes for this. If you don't want potatoes, you could just use the beans. And that's all there is to that. So that goes in. We need to add some tomatoes. And here we have plum tomatoes. Italians love to use plum tomatoes for sauces and also for salads, and it's great for soups. So 4 or 5 plum tomatoes go in. The cabbage, of course, the cavolo nero. Here it is. And when you bring it in, of course, you wash it well, cut it up into small pieces, and you put that right into the soup pot. So make sure you're using a fairly large pot. And if you didn't have access to this, you could use kale, or you could use spinach. So all of that goes in. And now we need to add some water. On about 6 cups of water. Again, make sure that the water is hot when you add it. That goes in. Looks good. And stir this around. You're going to have to wait till this wilts down a bit before you can really, really mix this well. So we're going to put the cover on that now and let that go So here we have our food processor, and we're going to take half of those beans, those wonderful dried beans that we did. We're going to take half of them and put them into our food processor. So you let that go. And that's looking good. So what you have is something like this. And we're going to add that to our soup once our cabbage has kind of cooked down a bit. We can't add that just yet. But now what we can add is the rest of the seasoning, which I forgot, which is a little bit of celery salt. I like to use about a tablespoon of celery salt in this. Really bring out the flavor. And this has got so much stuff in it, it's going to take a while for this to really wilt down. So we're going to let that go. Now let's come back over to the ribollita. And as you can see, that black cabbage has wilted down enough for me to put in, first of all, the beans that we pureed. This is our thickening agent. So that all goes in. You want to stir that around. And that's going to help thicken this soup. And now we're going to put in the whole beans, keeping some of the beans whole. And the last thing we have to put in are the green beans. So in go the green beans. Stir this around. Give this, again, a little bit of salt and pepper. Put the cover on